Good evening, everybody. We're going to make a start and chat about a nice leisurely question. What is the meaning of life? Purpose, the Kabbalah of Purpose. The question that plagues us all. What am I here in this world for? What is my purpose? What am I here to do? There was a student of one of the great rabbis in Europe, 100 or so years ago, who was leaving Europe to try his fortunes in the new land in America. And before leaving his rabbi, he asked for some parting words of blessing, of wisdom. He said he's going to the great unknown, and he wants to know, how will I know what my purpose is? How will I know what my life is about? How will I know which way to go? Give me some words of wisdom that will take me on my journey and will stay with me so I'll be able to stay on the right path. So his rabbi tells him, life is like a fountain. Now go and travel well. So he leaves his rabbi a little bit perplexed. Life is like a fountain. Okay, so he goes on his travels and he ponders, life is like a fountain. What does that mean? Life is like a fountain. He's thinking about some images, fountains, water, going around and around, up and down. He can't come with anything. Anyway, he arrives at his destination in the new land in America, and there he speaks to sages and he asks them, well, why do you think life is like a fountain? A few people give him suggestions what it might mean. And anyone who he finds, he asks, anyone who he thinks might have an idea, what does it mean life is like a fountain? And most people give him vague stares, life's like a fountain. I don't know, they're trying to explain it, nothing hits the spot, there's nothing he's satisfied with. He's still a little bit perplexed. Why is life like a fountain? After many years of living in America and living by this maxim that life is like a fountain, not really knowing what that means, he ends up back in Europe and he looks up his old rabbi, who's even older now, and he tells him that, many years back I left you. You left me with this piece of advice, that life is like a fountain. And I've asked everybody, and I've searched and thought about it, and pondered and contemplated, and I've got nowhere. Why? Why would life be like a fountain? His rabbi says, okay, so life's not like a fountain. And that's it. and sometimes this is exactly how we feel in our search for the meaning for life. We think we found it, we think we know what our purpose is, we got it. And so we go along that path for years and years, and to find out, maybe not. Maybe that's not our purpose. Maybe that's not where we're supposed to be going. And every year, 5 years, 10 years, we ponder it again. So where am I supposed to be going? I thought I was on the right path. I thought I knew what I was in this world to do. I thought that I had it figured out. And it went well for a while, and then it ended up being not so much like a fountain after all. Maybe it's not like a fountain. And you have to start again and search again and think, what am I here to do? And this question plagues us over and over, constantly, throughout our lives. And it's almost embarrassing to admit that some of us have got on in years. And still, do we know what our purpose is? Do we know what we're here to do? Are we clear on what our mission is in life? Many of us have to admit that we're not. And this is really bizarre. It's a strange thing. That the most important question that there could possibly be about your life, the most fundamental issue, which is, what am I here for? What am I here to do? That question, you would think, should have a clear, unequivocal, simple, straightforward answer. Of all things, that we should have clear. Maybe some of the details we should have a bit of a vagueness around. The details of our life, where we should live, and what type of job we should have, and our hairstyle, these things, they can be a bit debated here and there. We can change our mind, but our mission, our purpose, our focus, our goal, what we're here to do, that should be something that we have down pat, clear. And yet, it's the biggest question, the biggest mystery. What makes this even more strange, this question of our purpose, is that in the world that we live in, the only ones that don't know what their purpose is us, humans. Everybody else is very clear on what they need to do. They know exactly what they're here for, what they're supposed to do, and they do it. Without any question. Whereas human beings are confused as to what we're here to do. There is no animal in the world that questions their mission. Every species of animal knows exactly what it's supposed to do, what it's there for, what its life is about, and it goes about doing that. We don't find animals halfway through their lives questioning whether they've been true to themselves and they're really on the right path. We don't find it that a possum should stop scratching in the roof in the middle of the night and say, you know what, this can't be what it's all about. There must be more to it than that. And so the possum goes exploring other vistas and seeing what it's like to be a wombat. We don't find this thing. We find every animal knows what it's supposed to do and does exactly what it's supposed to do. Predictably, inexorably, unchangingly, an animal knows where it is. It knows its place in the universe. It's completely satisfied. There's no struggle. Whereas a human being, no matter how mature, wise, developed, and evolved we may be, we're still not exactly sure what we're here for. In fact, we're not even sure sometimes if we're here for anything. Do we actually have a mission and a purpose? Do we have meaning? Maybe, when it's all said and done, maybe life doesn't have a meaning. Maybe, after all, life's not like a fountain. Maybe it's like nothing. Maybe there's no message, no purpose. We're not really all that sure. And so some people will just conclude that's it. If you've got to just make peace with the idea that there's some questions that don't have an answer because there's no answer. There's some unanswerable questions because there really isn't an answer. And the question of what is our purpose in life, what's our mission, what are we here for? There's no answer to that question because there really is no answer. There's no mission, there's no purpose. We're just here to be here. So make peace with that. Stop racking your brain for meaning and purpose and just enjoy life for what it is. You're only here for a short time. And so there's a whole list of lines, of mottos, such as you only live once, and here today, gone tomorrow, life's too short, and many other philosophies that will tell you just enjoy what you have and stop worrying about purpose. And some people seem to be able to survive that way for quite a while, and to live without purpose, without needing a purpose, without any mission whatsoever. Some people make a mission out of that message. They devote their lives to the purpose of spreading the message that there's no purpose and there's no meaning to life. That's cheating. That's not fair. If there's really no purpose, then you don't have to spread the message. You don't have to become a priest of purposelessness. But there are some people who just live a life drifting through the seas of no man's land, going nowhere in particular, not worrying about purpose, just enjoying. But for most of us, that will not be a satisfying existence. And that thinking that life has no purpose is too dark, too sad, too threatening for us to be able to go through our lives saying that there's no real reason we're here. And so the paradox that we're left with is that the human species is the only species in the universe that doesn't know why we're here. And we're also the only species in the universe that can ask the question, why are we here? We're the only ones that ponder that question, and we're the only ones that don't have an answer. An animal doesn't ask the question, and they know the answer. They don't ask why I'm here. They just go about their business. They know what they need to do. Whereas a human asks the question and can't answer it. This seems weird. This seems very strange. It's almost like a cosmic practical joke being played on the human race by its creator. That we're given the self-consciousness, the self-awareness to ask why we're here, and we're not given the answer and told why we're here. That would be cruel. That seems weird, that we're in that position. And yet, that's how it seems to be. So, what we need to look at is a possible answer. What is the purpose of humanity as a whole? What is our particular purpose as an individual within humanity? And what's the difference? Why do we need a purpose? Why is a purpose so important? One of the great thinkers of medieval Judaism was Maimonides, known as the Rambam. Maimonides is a Spanish rabbi, physician, scientist, and a brilliant man. He wrote a very fascinating thing, a fascinating observation about the world. He said that every single species in existence has a purpose, has a place in the big system of the universe. That every species there is has something that contributes to the big picture, is needed for the big picture. One species feeds another, or creates a habitat for another, or somehow participates in the big picture of the universe. There's only one exception to that. There's only one species in all of the universe that is not needed for any of the others. None of the others need it. And that is not the mosquito, the human being. The human being is the only being that is not needed. We need all the other creatures. Every other creature somehow gives us something, either directly or indirectly participates in our lives. Whereas we are totally not needed for the entire universe. If you would take out any species in the universe, says Maimonides, the entire system would collapse. It wouldn't be able to last. There's a certain balance. There's a need for every single animal to be there. And unless the system itself pushes that animal out, because it is no longer needed, it is necessary to be in that system. The only exception to that is the human being, that if you would take the human being out of the system, it would be fine. It would run perfectly. It doesn't need us. Which again, makes a glaring statement. That here, the human being is the only one that could have said this. The only species that could have noticed whether we're needed or not is the human being. And what is our conclusion? That we're not needed. That we don't participate, we don't contribute anything to the universe. That it could get along without us. If we wouldn't be here, things would be fine. It's a startling conclusion. That we're not needed in the universe. And this, Maimonides says, is based on a Talmudic teaching that says that in the creation story, the human being was created last of all creation. On the sixth day of the 6 days of creation, at the end of the day was the human being. The last creation. Meaning there was a world, fine, without the human being. The human being was the last bit. So everything in creation is there to somehow contribute something to the human being's existence, and yet the human being adds nothing to the rest of creation. This seems a startling thing. So what would we conclude with this knowledge, with this understanding? What are we here for? What's the human being here for? Well, from here, what would we say? If the rest of creation doesn't need us, we need it. So then, what is our place in creation?
Well, some would say that God needs us. Yeah, that's right. But if you believe in that sort of conventional theory of why we gather as a manifestation of God to make the earth a place for God, whatever it is that's so they believe in that thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if we weren't given a purpose, so it's up to us to find a reason out of it. Make our own reason.
We have to find a purpose. So we're not given a purpose. It's not given to us. It's something that we have to discover and find. And we can find that in a higher purpose, in God, for higher reasons, not for the world. Okay. So, in other words, to say that because we cannot find what the human being contributes to the universe, therefore we must not have a purpose, that is not true. You can't say that. And this, by the way, is a very popular idea, particularly today, where the human being is getting a very bad rap in the world today. We're seen as being merely a consumer, a polluter, a user of the resources of the world, and nothing more than that. We take and don't give back. And people are being trained to see people as a form of pollution. And this has certain logic to it. Indeed, every other species contributes, we don't. There is something to that. But to conclude that therefore the human being is a purposeless being that shouldn't really be there and does not really justify its existence or taking up space in the world, that can't be the conclusion. There must be something more to it.
So I'm confused. When you say that every other creature has a purpose, is that a purpose for us or purpose for the world, for the universe to exist?
It has a purpose for the system of the universe,
Right.
and we need all of them.
Right.
We need every other species for our existence, either directly for our food or for our...
And if one of those creatures were not there, the universe and us would not survive? We would not be okay without them?
We would be missing something. We would be incomplete. Yeah.
But now that we know the world is as it is, wouldn't it be fair to say that without us, the world would be incomplete?
Well, the question is why? What do we contribute that wasn't there already? What do human beings give to the universe?
Pollution.
But that's just a negative.
So we say. Like we still are making an impact.
Right, but the impact, he was saying contribution, not just the impact. Contribution means we're adding to the system. What do we add to the system?
Perhaps purpose of the infinite silence is used to preserve all the other physical nature that came before us.
Okay, so our mission is to keep nature going.
The purpose is to preserve it. Because nature's law, you take what you need. You don't take more than you need.
Right. Okay.
It would have kept going without us anyway. If it's completed, then it would just keep going and going.
I don't know that.
Maybe they would have killed each other out.
So that would mean that we have to cancel out the negative, the impact we make, the negative impact we make on nature. We have to cancel out to preserve nature.
But ladies comment, you don't know if we have kept going without us because we're part of the system. You just say to keep going without us.
Also, to say that the world was fine without us, maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but Shabbos came after that. Does that mean that the world is fine without Shabbos? Does that make sense? Like just the implication that because we were created last means that everything was okay without us and the world doesn't need us. Is that the same implication for what came after us?
Yeah, it would be. It would be that the world was a self-contained thing, and that is another step. That's a new step. The seventh day is not part of the 6 days of creation. It's a new thing.
But wouldn't it be equivalent like there's a body and a soul? So the world without us, it's like a perfectly working body, but without the soul, without the actual purpose. So us being here gives the whole world purpose.
Okay, yeah. So us being here gives the world purpose, then we have to find out, so how do we do that? What does that mean that we give it purpose? And would it have purpose without us? Or is there something that we contribute? What gets us a bit stuck in this discussion is that the real meaning of purpose, to find the purpose of something, that itself we have to define a bit clearer. What does it mean that something has a purpose? What does purpose mean? There's a difference between something's purpose and something's function. There can be something that has a function, has a job, it does something. But a purpose, by definition, the word purpose, having a purpose means finding a meaning in something that is beyond it, that is outside of it. The purpose and meaning of any system has to be beyond that system, not within the system. Meaning, the reason why something is happening precedes the thing that is happening, is above it, is beyond it. So if you look at a machine, for example, so the reason why that machine was built is something that preceded the machine. Before the machine was there was an idea. There was something that needed to happen. And the creator of that machine, the creator is the one who owns the meaning, the purpose of that machine, and created the machine for that purpose. It's not within the machine that you can find purpose. It's outside of the machine, before the machine, that you can find purpose. In any system, in any creation, in any structure, the purpose of it is outside of it and is endowed onto it. To find purpose, you can't just be within the system, you have to look beyond the system and say, what is it there for? Why did it come into being in the first place? And so all of nature is a system that works together very well, but that is the system. The purpose of that system has to be beyond it, has to be outside of it. And so this is what's unique about the human being. That of all creations, of all creatures in the world, we're the only one that can look upwards. That can search for what is beyond and outside of us and find purpose. Any other creature just does what it does. It has no interest in how what it does impacts outside of it. It's not seeking purpose or meaning. It's simply doing what it's created to do. Whereas the human being is able to look beyond self, look outside of self, and find a higher purpose. And so, to say that what the human being contributes to the system, it's not a part of the system, it's not within the system, our contribution. It is that which is beyond the system, which is meaning and purpose. That is exactly what we're here to do. Which only strengthens our conundrum from the beginning. That the entire reason of the existence of the human being is to bring meaning and purpose to the universe. And we can't figure out what that is. We don't know what is our purpose. What is the purpose that we're trying to bring? We're stuck in this. What are we supposed to be doing? So to understand better what our purpose is, we have to understand what it means to live with purpose. I once saw a letter that was addressed to the Rabbi, Rabbi Schneerson, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the great mystic leader and thinker of the last century. And the question was, coming from an average, everyday person who many people would write letters to the Rebbe asking for advice, wisdom and insight. This person was saying, similar to our friend who was leaving Europe to America, he said, I've spent my entire life trying to work out what my purpose is. I'm getting on in years, and I still haven't discovered what my purpose is in life. I'm still confused about it. I don't know what I'm here for. And this is not through want of trying. I have studied every spiritual path there is in the world. I read every self-help book. I look into every insight there could possibly be into what life is about. Any seminar, lecture, anything that is on, I will go to listen and hear about purpose and meaning. I've been searching and thinking. I discuss it with wise people. I talk to little kids. I'll ask anybody who might have any insight into what is the purpose in life. And I've heard wonderful ideas, but nothing really speaks to me and tells me what is my purpose in life. I've dedicated now decades to this, and I still haven't got anywhere. So I'm turning to you, Rabbi, because you are known to be a visionary, a man of the Spirit, who can tell me, can you direct me, what is my purpose in life? So I remember being very excited to hear the answer. What would the Rebbe's response be? And many of the Rebbe's letters to such people have been published. And this one was published, and the response was at first a little bit disappointing to me, I have to admit, when I first read it. Because the response was very brief. Basically, the Rebbe responded to this guy that you're seeking for your purpose in life. So let me tell you that if you keep on seeking your purpose, you're going to run out of time. And by the time you discover any answer, it'll be too late. So stop seeking and just get on with it. That was it. That was the answer. Which, how can you answer? That's not an answer. That's the guy's asking for direction and purpose. And he's being told, just get on with it. Stop seeking your purpose and just move on. What type of response is that? Where does it leave him? That he's wasting his time and he should get on with what? What should he get on with? Like, that's his question. His question was, what is my purpose? What I need to be doing? And give me some direction and tell me what it is, and I'll do it. And the Rebbe's response is, stop looking for your purpose and just get on with fulfilling your purpose. That's circular logic. He doesn't know what his purpose is. How's he supposed to get on with it? With what? What's he supposed to do next? So it seemed like, to me, a very puzzling answer to this question. But on further reflection, in fact, the Rebbe's response to this particular person's question, and to the question that we're all asking, was spot on, and is exactly what needs to be understood to get a sense of what purpose really means. You see, there's really two ways of living our lives. There's living our lives with a sense of purpose, and there's living without a sense of purpose. What this really means is whether you are outwardly focused or inwardly focused. Are you focused on your purpose, or are you focused on yourself? They're really the two choices in life. Or, putting it in slightly different words, either you can have a higher purpose, or you are the purpose. Either your purpose is to serve something higher than you, greater than you, bigger than you, outside of you, or your purpose is to serve yourself. You are the purpose. And they are polar opposites. They're completely different ways of living life. Living with a purpose means living with a higher purpose. Any other life is making yourself the ultimate purpose, and that's it. And what we're saying, that everything we do has some purpose. There's always a purpose to everything we do. There's a reason why we're doing it. So if we would analyze ourselves, you get up in the morning. Why? Why did you get up this morning? Why do you get out of bed? It's cold out there, and it's warm in bed. Why get up? There's something has to motivate you. It's a tough one. So why do we do that? So everyone has a different answer. Some people, because we're hungry. You're really hungry. So if you haven't got somebody serving you breakfast in bed, you've got to get out of bed to eat something. Otherwise you can't get moving. Others is, I'm hungry, and if I don't get out of bed and go to work, I won't have anything to eat because I won't have any money. So I've got to get up and get on with my day. Other people are motivated by other things. But each thing you can ask, and what's your motivation for that? So you need to eat. Why do you need to eat? To survive, to be alive. Why do you need to be alive? What for? To enjoy myself, to enjoy the sun, to have fun. So it ends with you. The whole circle ends with myself. I'm here to work, to eat, to look after myself, for myself. I am the purpose. That's one way of living. The other way of living is that, no, I'm here for a higher purpose. I'm here for a mission. I'm here for a goal. I've got to do something to give to the world, not to myself, but to outside of me. I'm here to achieve something, to bring some goodness to the world. That's what I'm here to do. And so I can't just stay in bed and sleep. I've got to get moving. I've got to get up. I've got to get going. I've got a mission. I've got a purpose. A way to differentiate between these two types of living, one of them is living, and the other one is just existing. Living means you're alive, you're on the move, you're on the go, you've got things to do. Existing means that it's about me, and I'll only move if it'll somehow enhance me, it'll help me. But it's just about me. It's all about myself. And the difference between the two is a world of difference. We can all look at ourselves, and it's easy to look at other people actually, and categorize people that we know, whether they're living or existing. Are these people on the move with a mission, with a purpose? Or are these people that are just serving self and existing, and no more than existing? There's a very big difference. To exist just means that you're taking up space, you're a lethargic being that only will move as is absolutely necessary. Will only do what is absolutely necessary to survive and to look after self, but won't do any more than that. Whereas a person who's alive, who's living, who's focused, who's driven, who's purposeful, they are always on the move. They've always got things to do. They're alive and enthusiastic. It's a completely different way of being. Like, for example, you know the saying that if you want to ask somebody to do a favor for you, you've got something you need somebody to help you with, ask a busy person. Don't ask somebody who's got a lot of time on their hands. Ask a busy person to do a favor for you. Why? Counterintuitive. A busy person is busy, they don't have time. Whereas somebody who has plenty of time on their hands, who's doing nothing all day, so get them to do it. They'll be able to do it for you. But we know from experience it doesn't work that way. Why? Why would a busy person be more helpful than somebody who has a lot of time on their hands?
They can always fit it in.
Because they're on the go. Because they're on the move. Because somebody who is alive, who's living, not just being, not just existing, but living, that person is on the move. They're light. They've got some momentum. And so if you ask them to do a favor for you, they can just add it to their pile because they're on the go, they're on the move. Whereas somebody who does nothing, and they might be very busy doing nothing, but they're doing nothing. So to ask them to do something is just adding to the burden of life. It's so heavy already, what they have to get through. And so to ask them to do another thing, it's too much. It's way too much. How can I do that? And so they might agree to it, but never get around to it, because everything's too much for them. We're not talking really about two very different people externally. Externally, they might have the exact same life. They both might be working in the same job, living in the same place, and having the same hobbies, and doing all the same thing. But there's one person who does it, it's all heavy. Everything's heavy, everything is an effort. Everything is extra, because life is really about me. And if I have to do anything, that's already a burden, that's already a bother. to have to bother to do anything. It's a heaviness that they've got. And so they're so heavy with their own obligations, to ask them to do something else is way too much. These are people who are busy with nothing, because they're just busy with themselves. Whereas somebody who is purpose-driven, they're so light because their self is light. They're not stuck in self. They're not heavy in self. And so therefore they're moving along. Their lives, again, might be exactly the same. The same would apply to the way people react to challenge, struggle, difficulties. That every single person goes through hard times and difficulties and challenges. Everyone has that. It's a normal part of everyone's life. But there's two ways of experiencing that, of handling that. There are some people who will take every opportunity to kvetch, to complain, to moan about everything that's going on in their lives. And everything is difficult and heavy. It's always, and whenever you ask them, how are things going? It's hard. It's really hard. Things are tough. And things are always difficult and tough. And there's a certain pleasure they take in saying that things are difficult. You really want to know? And they let you know everything that's happening in their life and all the things, and it's really difficult and challenging and hard. Now, I'm not saying that it's not. It could be. But there are some people that everything is hard and challenging. It's always that way. You could have another person going through the exact same things, the exact same challenges, or sometimes even worse, and you ask them how are things? Great. But are you having a bit of difficulty with this and that? Yeah, bit of challenging times, but we're getting through it, and we'll get there. It's a totally different attitude, different way of looking at the exact same things. And we know the people who complain the most are not the people that have the biggest problems. That's for sure. The people that complain the most are the people who are the most self-focused. And so whatever's going on in the world, it's what's happening in my life and my problems. That is the biggest thing. And you coming in to my life, you're just there to listen and hear about my problems. That's all you're there for and nothing more. Whereas another person could be going through exactly the same or worse things, real challenges, but they're light, not because they're not taking it seriously, not because they don't feel pain, not because they can't feel hurt. They can, but that's not their focus. Their focus is on where they're going, on their mission and purpose, not on self, not on me and my problems. And so they are on the move, and they're pleasant company to be with. Even when they're going through difficult times, they're pleasant because you exist in their world. You're actually there. You actually feel like you're a player, an existence, a being, because they will listen to you. They'll hear what you're going through. And even when they share what they're going through, that it's sharing. It's not just dumping on you. Whereas somebody who is just an existence, a big, heavy existence, so then you are just there to listen to me and to commiserate with me. And even if I listen to you, it's only to tell you, you think you have it bad, you should hear what I have. That it's a self-absorption. So really, what purpose really means is having a sense that there's something bigger than you that you're here for. That there's something outside of you that you're here to achieve. That it's not just about you. Whereas somebody who is self-absorbed is purposeless, because they are the purpose. And in actual fact, that is a form of idolatry.
Aren't they sick, these people? Like some people, that sort of self-absorption, they must feel like they're a really sick being.
Some might be, but I'm talking about us. I'm not talking about them. This is something that we go through. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do. That when you are in this state, we're not necessarily talking about two different people on two sides of the world. Sometimes the very same person can go through a time of self-absorption, and that's when we're the most miserable. There's no question that all feelings of misery, unless they're clinical, but in the normal type of depression that everybody goes through, is a direct result of self-absorption. That of wallowing in self-pity, of thinking about myself and what I'm missing, what I should have and what I don't have, and how unfair it is. And the more I go into that, the darker I become.
It's like a black hole that takes out all the light.
Correct. And we all fall for that, because we all have ego and self, we all get stuck in this. And the more we fall into it, the more sorry we feel for ourselves, and the worse it gets. And so then we think, okay, so I need to help myself. I need help. And so we do like our friend did, and we read all the books about ourselves. And we try and figure out what is wrong with me. And I need to go deeper within myself and find out more about myself. And I need to take out some time for myself. We often hear people say that, I need to actually take out some time just for myself, to look into myself and to be more inward. And this just makes things worse, because all this self-examination is, again, just a form of indulgence. It's a form of just enjoying and wallowing in self. And there's a twisted pleasure that we get out of feeling that we are the worst off in the world. There's no one as miserable as me. No one could be in a worse situation than me. There's a pleasure that we get in that. And that just makes things worse.
I have two questions. One is that, is it possible to be self-absorbed while, say we know that there's a higher purpose, while serving that higher purpose? Is it possible to be self-absorbed within that, if we do it for ourselves?
Yeah. It's possible to take this whole discussion and just make it another chapter in your self-absorption. In other words, your search for meaning and purpose is about me looking about what am I here for, and it's the me and the I that is emphasized. So therefore, you'll have people who are very into self-improvement, working on themselves and self-improvement. They're very into that. Why? Because they'll say, what are we here in the world to do? To become better people, to do more good. And so I'm very into self-improvement. And they spend a lot of time analyzing themselves, criticizing themselves, and honing their personality to be a better person. And that person too, if you ask them for a favor, they'll say, look, I'm really sorry, I'm working on self-improvement at the moment. So I don't really have time to help you out. I'm really working on becoming a better person. So I can't help you. That can also be total self-absorption in a higher purpose. It certainly can. So what is the way out of this? What is the way out of this black hole of self-absorption and therefore the misery that also comes with it? So, there's a story of a girl who was studying in a seminary, and she felt that everybody hated her. She felt very isolated, and nobody appreciates her. And she wrote also to the Rabbi about this, that everyone in the school is unfriendly to her, they're not nice to her, they exclude her, and she doesn't feel like one of them. And this is causing her to feel very alone and down, and she's got no friends and going nowhere. So the Rebbe responded to her that in that seminary where you're studying, when you go to the lunchroom to have lunch, so sit down at a table and pour a drink for everybody else at the table. As soon as you sit down, pour everyone a drink, and then pour yourself and have lunch. And that was the end of the advice, that this is what you should do. Which, in its simple brilliance, what the Rebbe was telling this girl was that your misery and your feeling of isolation is, that's what you're feeling. Whether what other people are thinking, who knows. But if you will just go out of yourself for a moment to pour somebody else a drink, just do that. Just pour somebody else a drink. So then you will see that the world will change for you. And indeed, for this girl it did. That by doing that, it wasn't that because she poured drinks for people, so people said, "Oh, thank you very much, that was really nice of you. It's just pouring a drink." It was that she was stuck in herself. Her heart was closed. She was so self-absorbed. All she needed to do was reach out to somebody else, to realize that there are other people in the world, and they really exist, and you can care for them and do for them. By doing that, that broke through her shell, and she became a likable person as a result of that, as a result of going out of this self. It was a simple move of purpose, because purpose is something outside, bigger than yourself, going beyond yourself. And so as simple an act as pouring a drink for somebody else, that is enough already to pierce the self-absorption and to start living. Not just to exist in your own bubble, but to actually live as a part of a world outside of you. And so for this girl, all it took was to do a simple thing like that, to start pouring a drink. And that is how simple purpose really is. It means shifting the focus, that I'm not just here to look after self, to be here for myself, but to be here for a higher reality, for a higher being. And that just means as simply as going out of self. Because the more stuck we are in our self-absorption, so what happens is a crust, a layer develops over our heart, and that's what makes us feel isolated. That's what makes us feel unloved and alone. It's by reaching out just to another person, by pouring them a drink, that starts to melt. And we start to have a sense, a feeling of purpose, of meaning, of that I have a use in the world. And so this is the crux of what the Rebbe's response was to this guy who was searching for purpose. See, he had become stuck in the cycle of seeking my life's purpose. That became his self-absorption. What am I here for? That itself became a blockage to him fulfilling his purpose. He enjoyed the search for purpose much more than having to do anything about it. He enjoyed the self-absorption in wondering about myself. What am I here? What is my mission? What am I here to do? Rather than actually doing anything. And so the Rebbe pierced that by telling him, stop looking for your purpose. Stop searching for your purpose. And start doing. Just get on with it. Just do. Where did that leave him? What's he supposed to do now? Well, you may not know what your life mission is. You may not know what your particular thing is to be here in this world. But some things you do know. You do know that there are people around you who could do with your help. In your immediate vicinity, there are people who need your support, your help, your kindness. There are people in your own family who need you. Need you to be there for them. And if you're not there for them, no one else will be. So there's purpose. So what are you waiting for? There are things you need to do. So pick up the phone and call somebody. Go and visit them. Offer your support and help. Go and do it. You know that you're there for that, and no one else can do that. There are people in your circle, wider circle, who also require help and need your support. There are people who are lonely, who you know that could do with some type of friendship or a little bit of encouragement or whatever it may be. So do that. There are people at work who also could do with a helping hand. There are so many things in your immediate surroundings that are obviously there for you to do, waiting for you to do them. And if you're thinking, well, is this my life mission? Is this my purpose? My purpose is to help that person, or maybe it's this person, maybe someone else. What is my purpose? So sitting around wondering about your purpose is the greatest blockage to fulfilling it. Because in a way, it's so obvious what your purpose is. Every day you're presented with opportunities to fulfill a purpose. Every single day, right in front of you, things happen where you have a role to play. You have something you need to do. And so, what the message really is that purpose is not some fortune cookie that you can read and it just tells you in a line, this is what your soul is here to do. That's not what purpose is. Purpose is a message that unravels itself through life itself. That as you live your life and as you do the acts of goodness that present themselves to you, as you react to the situations around you positively and bring more goodness into the world that you're in, as you do that, your purpose unfolds itself. It unravels itself. It's not something that you can find somewhere or somebody can tell you, or you can open this secret book and it tells you based on your name and your birthday that this is your mission. It's something that presents itself to you on a daily basis, and by you taking opportunities of doing good, of focusing outward on those who need you, so then the mission, the purpose, what you're here to do unravels itself as you go along. And so, in that one-line answer that the Rabbi gave this man, it completely changed his perspective on searching for purpose. It's not about me looking, because me looking is just me. Me searching is just me. It's about doing and getting on with it. And looking around you, outside of you. As soon as you look outside of you, you find your purpose. That's the irony of seeking, of being a purposeful being, is that you can't find it within yourself. You have to find it outside of yourself, outside of the system, beyond self. If you don't look higher, if you don't look beyond, then you'll never find it. And that's the paradox of being human. That we have the power to ask this question, and we can't find the answer within ourselves. We don't know what our purpose is. There's no simple purpose that we can find. Unlike any animal that can find its purpose through its own instincts. Just following its instincts, that's what it's supposed to do. Whereas the human being has to go outside of self. Sometimes go against our instincts to do that which is selfless, not selfish. That's how we find purpose. And so the gift of being a human being is that we have the ability to transcend self, to go outside of self, beyond self, and look after somebody else's needs, not just our own. And the gift that a human being can bring to the world is that sense of purpose, is that we're here to serve a higher purpose, one that's outside of self. Yeah.
It sounds like as long as you're helping people, that you've got purpose. Is that right? As long as you're doing stuff for other people and not just for yourself.
Yeah, that's the beginning of it. The beginning of purpose is helping others, and when you're open to that, so then your mission, your purpose in life will become clearer. Yeah, that's for sure.
So it's part of the problem, the relativity concept, because we all go through our lives every day, and then you can find every day the little things you do. When you look back on the day, they might have made some small impact in someone's life, even though you may not realise it, just talking to somebody or giving them a bit of throwaway advice. But when we're looking for purpose, it's when you see people that are great achievers, and then you feel a sense of your own life, that it's just these little things I'm doing, and I really want something that is really big and important that's going to make my life really feel worthwhile.
Right. Yeah, so that's I guess one of the problems is that we define a great achiever as, the type of images that come to mind as a great achiever means somebody who has either made a lot of money or they have invented, built something big, massive, that is overwhelming and touches the entire world. But whether that's purpose, whether that's fulfilling purpose, is not necessarily. That you can have people who have achieved big, dramatic things and are very empty and feel very empty. And all you need to do is read the biographies of these people and autobiographies of these people to see that they've done massive things and they feel completely empty. And they're still wondering, what they're here in this universe to do. Whereas a simple person who has been a good husband or a good wife, a good son or daughter, a good brother and sister, father and mother, and that's it. That's all. That's all they've achieved. They've done nothing more than being good to the people around them. And there's nothing more, you can't write in their obituary anything more they've done than that. So that's a great achiever. That's it. There can be nothing greater than that. You see it in obituaries. Actually, an interesting place to look if you look at obituaries, because very often some of those very great famous people, you can't say much about their family because they're not on talking terms, or they don't exist, or they're not around anymore. Like there's no sense of family, there's no sense of relationship. Some of these people are great failures in relationship. Not always. There are some people who are great achievers who also have a fantastic foundation in the moral life. But it doesn't necessarily come together. And so I think if we think differently, if we think that at the end of my day and at the end of my life, if I can turn around and if I'm a hero to my own children, if I'm seen as a great achiever by the people around me, if I've touched them positively, that is a great achievement. Whereas if I'm not eulogized in the newspapers, it doesn't really matter.
Where's your balance? Surely everyone is self-absorbed in the purpose. Purpose, you have other purpose.
There's got to be
at the beginning of your discussion, the animals have a purpose. The animals are all self-absorbed. There's only thinking of themselves, that's survival.
Right.
And the animal kingdom is as strong as survival. So that's a simple purpose. We've got to survive. So it's essential. We're going to give you a capture, a better capture. You're going to the world, really makes sense.
Okay, so how do we balance it? How can we fulfill our mission if we're totally selfless? If we really are totally selfless and only focus on others, we'll starve to death because we're not looking after ourselves. We're going to fall apart. You need to sleep, you need to eat, you need to have a life. So that's absolutely true. And so the balance that needs to be struck is that I do need to look after myself. But why do I need to look after myself? I have to get up in the morning and eat breakfast. But why do I have to do that? I have to exercise and look after my body. But why do I have to do all these things? Why do I need to be healthy? To live long and to die healthy? Why? What for? The answer is, I need all these things to fulfill my mission. I'm not going to be a good person. I'm not going to be able to be a good person if I don't have the health, if my body is not healthy. Because if my body's not healthy, I'm not there for anyone. I can't fully express my powers if I'm not well rested and if I'm not well fed. I can't do it. So therefore, I need to look after my body. Why? Because my body is the vehicle for me fulfilling my mission. And therefore, I need to do all those things. If you're doing it that way, if you're looking after yourself in order to fulfill your mission, so then that's not called self-focused. That's called looking after self, but in order to be there for others. And the same is not just physically, but also psychologically. It's very well known that people who do like helping other people can sometimes exhaust themselves by doing that. Can be completely drained. There are some people who cannot say no to anyone. And so they're always helping everybody, doing for everyone. And always focused on everyone else. And they are falling apart inside because they're not looking after themselves emotionally. They also need some space. They also need their own life. They also need to be able to say no and to make some space. So it's the same thing. If you really want to help other people, you need to have an inner strength. And that means having a certain emotional space and looking after yourself emotionally as well, which means saying no sometimes. Because what's the good of you exhausting yourself by helping everybody when you're then going to not be able to help anyone? So therefore, of course, a person has to be aware of their own needs and make sure they're being fed, to feed your own needs. But the question is not whether you're doing that, it's why you're doing that. Why are you looking after your own needs? So I can fulfill my mission better. And if that's why you're doing it, so then it remains a healthy thing. It's not a self-indulgence, it's keeping focus on my mission.
Right?
Yeah.
In all the shiurs that on Kabbalah that you've delivered, you've always reverted back and found a Talmudic quote that justifies it or explains it, or from where the thought is derived. This seems to be different. It's more philosophical discussion rather than based on obscure or not obscure Talmudic texts. Just an observation.
Okay. Yeah. So if you want some quotes.
Yes, love it.
So there's an idea in the Talmud that says that everything that God created was for a higher glory, for a higher purpose. Everything God created. And therefore, what we said earlier about the 6 days of creation, the fact that the human being was created last, and the fact that the human being does not contribute anything to the rest of creation, must only be talking physically. That physically we're last, that physically we're unnecessary. We don't contribute anything to the physical, biological universe. Therefore, it must be that our contribution is not physical, is spiritual, is a higher purpose. And so that's why the Talmud says that the reason we were created last is because if we are fulfilling our mission, so then we can say that the entire world was created for us, and we are the ones that bring meaning to all of it. If we're not fulfilling our mission, meaning if we're not living purposefully, so then everything was created before us. We're an afterthought. We're an unnecessary appendage to creation. So that's really the Talmudic source for this discussion. That the human being can either be an existence that takes up space and pollutes the world, or we can be the inner meaning, the soul of the world, like I said earlier, the one that brings meaning to all of it. And that's why we're created last.
Yeah, it's easier to embrace the concept and the idea. One doesn't have to have blind faith. Talmudic verses have all this as it. I know it's hard to say that to a rabbi, but not everybody has the kind of faith that we have. That makes it easy, to find this idea of purpose inherent in something that God has.
Right. So like all Talmudic quotes, there's the quote, and then there's the living of it, and the reality behind it. And this is something that we experience and we see it. This is something that you can try at home. You can decide that tomorrow to live in a way that's purposeful, outwardly focused, and you'll see that first of all that brings a lightness to life. It brings a much more enthusiastic and focused and ambitious type of view of the world. And it also is the easiest way to take us out of our down moods. That any time a person feels down, lethargic, and not wanting to get on with life, the simplest way to get out of that is to just force yourself to look at someone else in need and do something for them. And go and help somebody else. The simplest way to get out of that mood, to break through it, is to just look outward. And it's something that is tried and tested, and it simply works.
I'm just wondering if you can talk a bit more about that balance, because I'm imagining probably for most people they're not on either extreme, but just constantly trying to find that balance. Oh, today I've exhausted myself and helped someone, or today I'm like, I've only thought about myself today, I haven't done anything for others. So what's some tools that you would say to actually find that balance? Okay,
so tools for balance. I think one of the things is praying and asking for strength and guidance from higher. Recognizing, again, that it's not all me, that this mission that I have is not one that's self-imposed. I didn't decide it. It's something that God gave me. God created me to do that. And so therefore, He has to give me the strength to do it. So to pray and ask for the strength, and the ability to recognize where I'm needed and to share that is number one. I think prayer gives us a lot of encouragement, because prayer itself is also a form of surrendering to a higher power. That's really what prayer is. Recognizing that it's not about me. I didn't create myself. I didn't put myself here. I'm put here with a purpose and a reason. So prayer is very helpful to center you and to keep focus. But I think also what's very important is to actually have guidance, to have a spiritual mentor and somebody who knows you and who can watch you and see where you're giving too much, and where maybe you need to reserve your powers and renew yourself. Because the problem is that we often, or always, we're subjective, within our own situation. It's very hard to sometimes judge. Am I being too giving, not giving enough, too generous, not generous? Like, where is my own line? Whereas somebody else can see it very clearly. Another person who knows you well can see very obviously that you've got to just snap out of it and do something good, or you've got to slow down and hold back a bit, otherwise you're going to burn out. So having somebody else who can guide you, a friend, a spiritual friend and a spiritual mentor, that is definitely a necessary thing. And then there's the guidelines, the guidelines that the Torah life gives you is to give you certain borders, just to know when the boundaries and borders are. That's really what Jewish law is mainly about, is about recognizing boundaries and borders, knowing limitations, knowing where I should be and where I shouldn't be. And there are some missions that are beyond my scope, and it's just not for me, and I can't go there. And so having a sense of that also can be very helpful in knowing which relationships are healthy and where I'm giving and where I just can't help that person. That person has to help themselves. I have to stay away. Okay, we'll stop there for now. You can stick around if you have more questions. If God willing, next week we'll continue the discussion going further into purpose in life.